The cargo ship Everbright was never meant to be part of history. It was an old freighter, patched with steel plates, humming engines that sounded tired after years of service. The crew was small, only 5 humans, but among them was Daniel Hayes, a young technician who had signed up for work to escape the boredom of Earth. He wanted adventure, though he never expected to find it in the cold silence of deep space. The ship had been moving through a quiet trade route when the scanners lit up with a signal unlike anything the crew had ever seen. It was not a distress call in human language, but it pulsed with rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Captain Morales leaned over the console. "That's not a normal beacon. Hayes, amplify it." Daniel pressed keys, the screen flashing with alien symbols. He frowned. "It's a repeating pattern, feels alive." The crew exchanged looks. Humans had met only scattered alien traders before, small races that sold metals or technology at hidden markets. But this signal felt different, larger, older, deeper. Against all caution, the captain steered the freighter toward the source. Hours later, the stars bent around them, revealing a ship so massive that it looked like a dark moon. Its surface glowed with faint silver lines, alive with movement, as if the vessel itself was breathing. "Dear heavens," whispered First Officer Grant. "That's not a ship. That's a palace." The Everbright trembled as beams of light locked on, pulling them into a docking bay big enough to swallow a city. The crew's panic rose, but the captain kept her voice steady. "We came to see what called us. We'll see this through." The docking bay opened, revealing soldiers, tall figures in armor that shimmered like black glass. Their faces were hidden behind masks shaped like fangs. They moved in silence, surrounding the freighter. One soldier pointed at Daniel. Not at the captain, not at the officer, but at him. "You," the alien voice boomed through a translator device. "The Queen summons you." Daniel froze. "Me? Why me?" The soldier did not explain. 2 guards took positions at his side. He glanced at Captain Morales, who gave him a small nod. Her eyes said what her mouth could not. "Go. Survive." "Tell us what you see." Daniel swallowed hard and stepped forward. The path through the alien ship was like walking inside a cathedral made of bones and stars. The walls glowed faintly, etched with flowing symbols that seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them. The air smelled strange, metallic but sweet. The guards led him into a grand hall. At the far end stood a throne carved from crystal that pulsed like a heartbeat. Upon it sat the alien queen. She was taller than any human, her form graceful yet terrifying. Her skin shimmered like polished stone, shifting in shades of silver and violet. A crown of spines curved back from her head, and her eyes were like burning moons, piercing, alive with hunger. The hall fell silent. The queen leaned forward, her voice echoing through every corner of Daniel's mind. "And my hunger, human." The words rattled inside him. He blinked, unsure he heard correctly. Hunger? Did she mean food? Daniel stammered, Your Majesty, if you're hungry, I think we have some rations on the ship. Not much, but enough to—" The queen tilted her head, eyes narrowing. Her court of armored warriors hissed, their armor clattering like angry insects. But the queen raised a hand, silencing them. "Food?" she repeated, her voice like thunder underwater. "You think my hunger is for bread?" Daniel flushed with embarrassment. He didn't understand. Yet her voice had not been cruel. It was sharp, curious, as if she were testing him. The queen rose from her throne and descended the steps. Each step sent a vibration through the hall. She stopped only a breath away from him. Though she towered above, her gaze locked on his with unnerving focus. "You are human," she said. "Flesh born of a world of storms, fragile yet stubborn. I have tasted the essence of many species, but never humans." Daniel's throat went dry. Tasted, as in eaten? The queen's lips curved into something between a smile and a threat. "Not your body. Your spirit." Her words sank into him like ice. She was not talking about hunger for food. She was speaking of something deeper, something older. Daniel tried to steady his breath. He thought of Earth, its oceans, its forests, the warmth of sunlight. He thought of his crew waiting in fear behind him. He thought of how easily these aliens could destroy them. What is it you want from me?" he asked. The queen's eyes glowed brighter. "I want what your kind hides. Strength without claws, fire without wings, the hunger that built your cities and broke your chains. Give it to me, human. End my hunger." Her court stirred. Some whispered in their alien tongue, as if the very idea of speaking to a human in such terms was unthinkable. Daniel's mind raced. She wasn't asking for food. She wasn't even asking for technology. She wanted humanity itself, the drive that made humans explore, fight, survive. But how could he give that? His hands shook, but he forced himself to stand straight. I can't give you all of humanity. I'm just one person. The Queen leaned closer, her breath cold as winter. Then show me. Show me the hunger of your kind, or your ship will be nothing but ash. The threat hung in the air like a blade. Daniel realized this was no chance meeting. They had been chosen, or perhaps trapped. Yet something inside him stirred. Fear was there, yes, but also a spark of defiance. He remembered his grandfather's words back on Earth. When the universe looks down on you, stand taller. You're human. Never forget that. Daniel looked up at the towering Queen. His voice was still shaky, but it carried a stubborn edge. If you want to understand our hunger, then you'll have to see it for yourself. But I'm warning you, our hunger isn't gentle. It's not safe. It's the reason we keep going when everything tries to stop us. Are you sure you want that? The hall grew silent again. The Queen studied him, her expression unreadable. Slowly, the sharp curve of her mouth softened. Interesting, she whispered. This one may be the key. With a gesture, she commanded the guards to step back. Her voice rang through the hall. Take him to the Chamber of Echoes. Let him show me this human hunger. The soldiers bowed, though some shifted uneasily. Daniel felt their stares, heavy with doubt and suspicion. He had no idea what the Chamber of Echoes was, but it sounded nothing like safe. Still, as the guards led him away, he kept his head high. If humanity had been called to prove itself, then he would try, even if he had no idea how. And in the back of his mind, the words echoed like a riddle. End my hunger, human. He thought he understood hunger. He was about to learn he did not. The guards led Daniel through endless corridors, each one stranger than the last. The walls were not just metal. They seemed alive, glowing faintly with streams of silver light that shifted like rivers under glass. Strange sounds echoed through the halls, deep tones that felt more like heartbeats than footsteps. Daniel tried to calm his racing thoughts. He had been chosen out of everyone. Not the captain, not the officer, but him. A simple technician, a man who fixed engines and wires. And now he was walking toward something called the Chamber of Echoes, ordered by a queen who demanded he end her hunger. The guards said nothing. Their armor clicked softly as they marched, their faces hidden behind dark masks. Daniel wondered if they hated him, pitied him, or didn't think of him at all. Finally, the doors opened. The Chamber of Echoes was vast and round, its ceiling lost in shadows. The walls were smooth crystal, glowing faintly as if holding the memory of 1,000 suns. At the center stood a tall pillar, surrounded by pools of liquid light that rippled without sound. The air was heavy, humming with unseen energy. The Queen entered behind him, her step steady, her presence filling the chamber. Her court remained at the doors, too respectful or too afraid to enter. Daniel turned toward her, nervous but curious. What is this place? The Queen's voice filled the room like music and thunder at the same time. This is where truth is revealed. The Chamber of Echoes listens to the spirit, not the tongue. Here you cannot lie. Here hunger cannot hide. Her silver eyes glowed as she pointed to the pillar. Place your hands there, human. Show me what burns inside you. Daniel looked at the pillar, its surface smooth and glowing faintly. His heart pounded. He had no idea what would happen. Would it hurt him? Would it drain his life? But he thought of his crew waiting in fear aboard the Everbright. He thought of Captain Morales, who trusted him to face this. And he thought of humanity itself. The countless lives back on Earth who had no idea a queen among the stars had demanded proof of what humans were. He stepped forward and placed his hands on the pillar. At once, the chamber shifted. The pools of liquid light rippled outward, sending waves across the floor. The walls brightened and a deep hum rose through the room. Daniel gasped as images flashed before his eyes, not from outside, but from his own memories. He saw himself as a child, chasing the waves on a beach, laughing in the sunlight. He saw his first day at the academy, struggling but refusing to quit. He saw the long nights repairing broken machines on Earth, telling himself there had to be more out there. The Queen watched closely, her head tilted, her eyes like mirrors that reflected his soul. Your hunger begins with curiosity, she said softly. You seek because you are restless. But is that all? The chamber pulsed, dragging more memories forward. Daniel saw Earth's history, not his own life, but the echoes of all humanity. The chamber seemed to draw it from the human spirit itself. He saw ancient tribes building fires against the dark. He saw explorers sailing into storms searching for unknown lands. He saw farmers turning deserts green, and astronauts stepping onto the barren dust of the moon. The Queen's lips curved into a faint smile. Yes, I feel it. Hunger not for flesh, but for more. For tomorrow. For the impossible. The vision shifted again, showing wars, struggles, disasters, but always humans rebuilt, pushing forward again. Daniel's chest ached as he watched, but also swelled with pride. That, he whispered, is what it means to be human. We don't stop. Even when everything breaks, we keep going. That hunger never dies. The Queen stepped closer, her gaze sharp. But why? Why do you not rest? Why do you not surrender, as so many other races do? Daniel's voice shook, but he answered from the heart. Because we know there's always something more out there. Something worth finding, worth building, worth protecting. Even when it hurts, even when it scares us, we move forward. That's our hunger. The chamber roared with light. The pillar beneath his hands grew warm, almost alive. The pools of liquid brightened and echoes of human voices filled the air. Shouts of victory, cries of struggle, laughter of discovery. The Queen closed her eyes as if drinking it in. Her face softened, her voice lower now. I feel it. It is not food. It is not blood. It is endless fire, but then the chamber trembled. The images shifted. Shadows rippled across the glowing walls. Daniel saw darker sides of humanity. Greed, destruction, cruelty. Wars that left scars across Earth. Cities burned, oceans poisoned. He staggered. No, that's not all we are. The Queen's eyes snapped open, her voice sharp. But it is part of you. The hunger that builds also consumes. I see it clearly now. Her court murmured at the doors, their voices like rustling blades. To them, perhaps, this was proof that humans were dangerous. Daniel clenched his fists against the pillar. His voice rose, firm. Yes, we've made mistakes. We've destroyed, but we also learn. We rebuild. Our hunger cuts both ways. But we choose to fight for the better side. That's what makes us human. The chamber pulsed again, responding to his words. The shadows faded, replaced with images of hope. Hands reaching across borders, lives saved in disasters, explorers joining hands under alien stars. Daniel turned toward the Queen, breathless but defiant. Our hunger is not perfect, but it means we keep trying. That's the difference. The Queen stared at him for a long moment. Then she stepped back, her gaze unreadable. Silence hung in the chamber, broken only by the faint hum of the glowing walls. Finally, the Queen spoke, her tone softer but edged with thought. You have shown me much, human. Fire and ruin, but also light. I see now why your kind spread so quickly among the stars. You burn, and nothing can stop the flame. Daniel lowered his hands from the pillar, his arms trembling. Sweat dampened his brow, but his eyes were steady. The Queen turned to her court at the door. Do you see? This is what no other race has given me. Not strength of body, not wisdom of age, but hunger that refuses to end. Some of the armored soldiers bowed their heads. Others shifted uneasily, not sure whether to accept or fear what they had just witnessed. The Queen looked back at Daniel. For the first time there was no threat in her eyes, only curiosity, and something almost like respect. Human, she said, her voice echoing softly through the chamber. Perhaps you are more dangerous than I imagined. Not because you destroy, but because you never stop. Daniel met her gaze, standing tall despite the fear still in his chest. If you asked me to end your hunger, I can't because it's endless. That's what hunger means for us. But I can share it with you. I can show you what it feels like to chase, to build, to fight for tomorrow. The Queen's expression remained unreadable, but her silence spoke volumes. She was thinking, considering, perhaps even admiring. Finally, she turned away, her voice rising like a command. Take him back to his ship. I will decide what comes next. The guards moved forward, leading Daniel from the chamber. He glanced back once, seeing the Queen standing by the glowing pillar, her tall form bathed in light and shadow. She looked less like a ruler demanding obedience, and more like a seeker staring into a mystery she could not yet solve. As the doors closed behind him, Daniel realized something important. She had asked him to end her hunger, but what he had shown her may have only made it stronger. Daniel sat quietly inside the alien transport vessel as it carried him back toward the Everbright. The guard said nothing, their armor gleaming in the low light. His mind was still burning with everything he had seen in the Chamber of Echoes, the visions of human history, the fire of endless hunger, the Queen's strange reaction. He had shown her humanity's spirit, and she had not destroyed him. That in itself was a miracle, but the way she had watched him at the end, silent and thoughtful, left him unsettled. Back on the Everbright, the crew rushed forward the moment the guards released him. Captain Morales grabbed his shoulders. "Hayes, are you all right?" "What did she do to you?" Daniel forced a tired smile. "I'm fine, I think. She wanted to see what makes us human. I showed her." Grant, the first officer, frowned. "And did she believe you?" Daniel hesitated. "I don't know. But I think I made her hungrier." Before anyone could ask more, the alien guard spoke. "The Queen will summon him again. Wait." Then they turned and left, the heavy doors sliding shut. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. None of them liked the idea of Daniel being dragged before the Queen again. But Daniel himself felt something different, an odd pull, a sense that this was only the beginning. Hours passed. The Everbright remained trapped inside the alien docking bay, surrounded by soldiers. The humans could not leave. They could only wait. Finally, the call came. The soldiers returned, pointing again at Daniel. "The Queen summons you." Daniel straightened, took a breath, and nodded. "All right. Let's see what she wants now." This time he was taken not to the Grand Hall nor the Chamber of Echoes, but to a smaller chamber deep within the ship. Its walls pulsed faintly like the inside of a living creature. At the center stood the Queen herself without her court. She turned when he entered, her silver eyes glowing in the dim light. "Human," she said softly. "You showed me your fire, but it is not enough. I still hunger." Daniel swallowed. "What do you mean?" "I gave you what you asked. I showed you our spirit, our drive, our hunger." The Queen's voice dropped lower, almost like a whisper carried by the stars. "You misunderstand. What you showed me was only a spark. I do not hunger to see. I hunger to feel. I want to taste what it means to be human, not in body but in spirit. I want to know it as my own." Daniel blinked. "You want to become human?" Her gaze sharpened. "Not become, understand. You humans burn with something that no other race carries. My people are strong, wise, eternal. But we are also still. We do not move forward. We do not dream of more. We rule, we wait, we endure. But you chase." She stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. "That hunger is what I want. Not just to witness, but to take into myself. Do you see now, human? That is my true hunger." Daniel's thoughts spun. She wasn't talking about food or even conquest. She wanted the essence of humanity itself, the restless drive that pushed them into the stars. But how could he give her that? He shook his head slowly. "I don't know if I can give you what you're asking. It's not something you take. It's something you live. Hunger isn't just a gift, it's a struggle. It's failing and trying again. It's dreaming when the world says no." The Queen tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "Then teach me." Daniel blinked. "Teach you?" "Yes," she said, her voice carrying the weight of command. "Show me what it means to hunger as a human. If you succeed, perhaps I will share your flame with my people. If you fail..." She paused, her silver eyes flashing. "Your crew will not leave this place." Daniel's heart sank. The fate of the Everbright rested on his shoulders. But even more than that, something inside him whispered that this was bigger than his ship. If he could teach the Queen, perhaps he could change how her entire race saw humanity. He took a deep breath. "All right, I'll try. But I warn you, this won't be easy. Hunger is not something you learn in a moment." The Queen's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Good, I do not want easy." Over the next days, Daniel found himself in strange company. The Queen did not keep him as a prisoner, nor treat him as an equal, but as something in between, an instructor of a lesson she could not find anywhere else. She questioned him endlessly. "What drives you to explore empty space? Why do you fight wars when peace is safer? Why do you build towers only for them to fall?" Daniel answered as best he could, speaking not as a leader or philosopher, but as a man who had lived among humans his whole life. "We explore because we need to know what's out there. Even if it's dangerous, even if it's empty, we can't sit still." We fight because sometimes peace is stolen from us and we refuse to bow forever. We build towers because reaching higher feels better than staying low, even if it means we risk the fall. The queen listened, her glowing eyes never leaving his face. Sometimes she nodded, sometimes she grew silent, lost in thought. But words alone were not enough. Daniel knew she had to see. She had to feel it. So he began to tell her stories. Stories of humans who starved but shared their last meal with a stranger. Stories of explorers who crossed oceans with nothing but hope. Stories of inventors who failed 100 times before creating something that changed the world. And as he spoke, the queen's expression shifted. She was no longer only curious, she was moved. One evening, she said quietly, "Your hunger is painful yet beautiful. It devours but it creates. It breaks but it builds. Perhaps that is why I cannot look away." Daniel met her gaze and nodded. That's what makes us who we are. But not everyone agreed with her. One night, as Daniel walked back to the small chamber where he was kept, 2 alien soldiers blocked his path. Their voices were low, their tones sharp. "You should not speak to the queen this way. She listens too closely. She forgets what she is." Daniel stood his ground. "She asked me to teach her. That's what I'm doing." The soldiers hissed, their armor clattering. "Your human fire is dangerous. It will poison her. It will poison us all." Before they could say more, the queen's voice thundered from the shadows. "Enough!" The soldiers froze as she stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "You fear his hunger because you do not understand it. But I will not turn away. If you doubt, then stand aside. Or be broken." The soldiers bowed quickly and left, but Daniel could see the unease in their movements. Not all of her people wanted this. Some would rather see him gone. The queen turned back to him, her face calmer. "Do you see, human? Even among my court there is fear. They want stillness. They fear the fire you bring, but I cannot let it go." Daniel nodded slowly. "That's the truth of hunger. Not everyone wants it. Some fear it. But for those who embrace it, it changes everything." The queen's eyes glowed brighter. "Yes, and I will embrace it." That night, Daniel lay awake, staring at the strange ceiling of his chamber. The queen's words echoed in his mind. She wanted humanity's hunger. She wanted to carry it herself, but he wondered, what would happen if she truly did? Would it inspire her people to grow, to change? Or would it drive them into chaos, as human hunger had often done on Earth? The question haunted him. But one truth was clear. The queen's hunger was not ending. It was only beginning. And Daniel Hayes, a simple technician from Earth, was at the center of it all. The days aboard the alien palace ship grew heavier with tension. Daniel could feel it in the way the armored guards watched him, their hands resting close to their weapons, their silver masks hiding what their eyes might say. The queen still summoned him daily, asking questions, demanding stories, listening to every word he spoke about humanity. But around her court, whispers grew louder. He saw it when the soldiers spoke to one another, when the nobles hissed behind tall columns. They did not trust him. Worse, they did not trust their queen. Daniel began to understand something important. The queen's hunger for humanity's fire was not just her curiosity. It was dangerous for her own people. It threatened their stillness, their eternal rule. Change was something they feared, and to them, Daniel was a spark that could set everything aflame. One evening, as he sat in his chamber, the door opened and Captain Morales was shoved inside by guards. "Captain!" Daniel jumped up, rushing to her side. She looked tired but unhurt. The guard's voice echoed coldly. "The queen has decided. The human must face trial. His flame will either prove itself or be extinguished." The door shut behind them, locking them in. Morales looked at Daniel with a grim face. "What did you do?" Daniel sighed. "I showed her what makes us human. Now she wants more. Her people don't like it. And it looks like they're forcing her hand." Morales frowned. "A trial? What does that even mean here?" Daniel shook his head. "I don't know. But I think we're about to find out." The next morning, the Queen's court assembled in the grand hall. The towering crystal throne shimmered with light, and rows of nobles stood in dark armor, their faces cold and sharp. Daniel and Captain Morales were brought forward by guards. At the center of the hall, a circle of light burned on the floor, wide and empty. The Queen rose from her throne, her tall figure glowing with silver fire. Her voice thundered through the chamber. "My people, you question my hunger. You fear the fire of this human. Today we will see if it is worthy." He will face the trial of the flame. If he proves his hunger is true, he will live. If not, his fire will end, and we will cast his people into the void." The court hissed with approval. To them, this was justice. To Daniel, it was a death sentence cloaked in ritual. But the queen's eyes held his for a moment, and he thought he saw something else. Hope, perhaps even trust. She believed in him. At least he wanted to think so. The floor of the circle shifted. Panels slid open, revealing a shifting arena filled with moving platforms, blazing lights, and strange mechanical beasts that crawled out from hidden doors. Their bodies were sleek and sharp, like predators made of silver bone and molten steel. Daniel's breath caught. "You've got to be kidding me." A soldier shoved a weapon into his hand. It was not a blade, not a gun, but a simple staff of glowing crystal. Light hummed at its tip. The queen's voice rang out, "Show us your hunger, human, survive." The beasts roared and charged. Daniel's body moved on instinct. He dodged the first strike, the staff humming as he swung it against the beast's side. Sparks flew, the creature stumbling but not falling. Another lunged from behind, and he barely rolled aside, feeling its claws slice the air where he had just been. The arena shook as platforms rose and fell. Fire burst from vents, and the walls shifted like a living puzzle. The beasts chased him relentlessly, their eyes glowing red. Daniel's heart pounded. He was no soldier. He was a technician, a fixer of wires and engines. But as he fought, something stirred inside him. The same stubborn spark he had felt in the Chamber of Echoes. He remembered the stories of humans before him. People who had faced impossible odds and refused to stop. Explorers who walked into storms. Survivors who built new worlds from ashes. "This," he whispered between breaths, gripping the staff tighter, "is what it means to be human." He swung the staff with new strength, striking one beast in the head. The glow flared, and the creature shattered into shards of light. Another lunged, and he dodged, letting it slam into a wall that crushed it in an instant. The crowd hissed and murmured. Some seemed impressed, others angry. But Daniel kept fighting, his body moving with desperation and will. At one point, he was thrown across the floor, his staff clattering away. A beast loomed over him, its jaws opening wide. For a heartbeat, fear froze him. Then another memory surged. A day when he was young, fixing an engine that everyone said was broken beyond repair. He had refused to quit. He had kept working until the machine roared back to life. That was hunger, refusing to quit. With a roar of his own, Daniel grabbed a shard of broken crystal from the floor and shoved it into the beast's glowing eye. The creature burst apart in light, collapsing around him. The crowd erupted in shouts. Some cried for his death, others for his victory. Daniel staggered to his feet, blood pounding in his ears. He grabbed his staff again, gripping it like a lifeline. He faced the last beast, his body shaking but his eyes burning. The creature charged. Daniel swung with everything he had, the staff blazing as it struck. The beast shattered into light, leaving only silence in the arena. The queen rose from her throne, her silver eyes glowing brighter than ever. "You see?" she cried, her voice echoing through the hall. "The human flame does not die. His hunger does not end. Even when weak, even when hopeless, he fights. He endures. That is what makes him human." The hall erupted in voices. Some bowed their heads, others hissed in anger, but none could deny what they had seen. Daniel stood in the circle of light, gasping for breath, sweat pouring down his face. He looked up at the queen, who now stared at him not with curiosity but with something deeper. Respect. She raised her hand. "The human has proven his flame. His crew will live, and his hunger will be mine to learn." That night back in his chamber, Captain Morales sat with Daniel, shaking her head. "You realize what you've done, Hayes? You've made yourself a symbol to them. Some of them will hate you for it. Some will fear you, but some might follow you." Daniel leaned back against the wall, exhausted but alive. "I didn't ask for that. I just wanted to survive." Morales gave him a small smile. "That's exactly why you did it. Survival, that's the heart of hunger. And now the queen has seen it with her own eyes." Daniel nodded slowly. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But he knew one thing for certain. His fight was far from over. The queen's hunger was only growing stronger, and soon she would demand more. The palace ship drifted through the endless stars, silent yet heavy with unseen storms. Daniel Hayes had survived the trial of the flame, but his victory did not end the danger. It had only made the cracks in the alien empire wider. The nobles whispered louder now. Their sharp voices carried through the halls, their silver armor clinking as they gathered in secret. Some wanted Daniel gone forever. Others wanted to study him like a strange animal. A few, though, had started to wonder if his flame could light their own lives. And in the middle of this storm sat the queen. She ruled with a voice of thunder, yet her eyes had begun to change. Where once they shone with cold fire, now there was a shadow of doubt. For the first time in her long reign, she was uncertain. Daniel spent his days in uneasy freedom. Guards still watched him, but they no longer treated him like a prisoner. The queen summoned him often, and each time her questions grew deeper. "Tell me," she asked one evening, her tall figure standing beside the star window. "What do humans hunger for most?" Daniel thought for a long time before answering. "Connection. We hunger for each other. For family, for friends, for people who remind us we're not alone." The queen tilted her head, her silver crown catching the light of distant suns. "But you fight. You destroy. Is that not your hunger as well?" Daniel shook his head. "We fight because we care. We destroy because we protect what matters. Hunger is not just about taking, it's about building too." For a long while the queen said nothing, but Daniel saw her hands tighten at her sides as if she was struggling with something deep inside. In another part of the ship, Captain Morales had her own troubles. She walked among the alien halls, her sharp soldier's eyes noting every movement. She saw the way guards avoided Daniel now, the way nobles argued when they thought no one was watching. She realized something dangerous. Daniel's survival had not just proven his strength, it had shaken the foundation of their empire. "Hayes," she whispered one night when they were alone, "you've started a fire, and fires don't stay small." Daniel gave a tired laugh. "Yeah, well, I never asked to be a torch," Morales smirked. "Too late. You are one." The turning point came during the council gathering, an event held only once in 1,000 years. Every noble lord and general assembled in the grand hall. The queen stood at the center, her silver robes flowing like rivers of light. Daniel and Morales were brought forward as well, placed at her side like living symbols. The nobles bowed, but their whispers were sharp and angry. Finally, one stepped forward, his armor black as night, his mask shining with cold light. "Great queen," he said, "this human flame is a danger. Already your people question you. Already they wonder if you are hungry for his fire instead of our survival. End him now before his spark spreads." Others joined him, their voices rising like storm waves. "End him! Cast him into the void!" The queen raised her hand and silence fell. Her eyes burned like twin stars as she looked at Daniel. "Step forward, human," she commanded. Daniel did as told, his heart pounding. He could feel every eye on him, every breath in the hall holding steady. "Tell them," the queen said, her voice carrying like thunder. "What is your hunger? Speak and let all hear." Daniel swallowed hard. He thought of his crew, still trapped somewhere in this alien empire. He thought of Earth far away, blue and fragile in the dark. He thought of Morales standing strong beside him. "My hunger," he began, his voice shaking at first but growing steadier, "is to live free, to see tomorrow even when today is hard, to fight for my people, and to build something better for the ones who come after me." He looked at the nobles, their cold faces unreadable. "You think hunger is weakness? You think it will burn your empire down, but hunger is life. Without it, you're not ruling. You're just surviving in silence." The hall stirred with murmurs. Some hissed in anger, others watched in thought. The queen's eyes never left him. "And if your hunger burns too bright? If it consumes all in its path?" Daniel met her gaze. "Then it means the fire was real. You can't control hunger forever. You can only choose whether to let it grow or let it die." For a long moment, silence ruled the hall. Then the queen turned to her people. "You see, this is the truth of the human flame. It is not destruction but creation. It is not silence but song. We have lived in stillness for too long. But her voice rose higher. "I will not starve any longer." The hall exploded with voices. Some nobles bowed in support. Others shouted in fury. The air shook with division. And then the black-armored noble stepped forward again, his voice like a blade. "Then you are no queen of ours." In one swift motion, he drew his blade of silver fire. Soldiers rushed forward, weapons flashing. Chaos tore through the hall. Morales grabbed Daniel, pulling him back as guards clashed with guards. The queen herself moved like lightning, her staff striking down those who dared oppose her. "Protect her," Morales shouted, shoving Daniel toward the queen. Daniel's body burned with fear, but his hunger carried him forward. He seized a fallen guard's weapon and swung it clumsily, blocking an attack meant for the queen. Sparks flew, and the alien soldier stumbled back in shock. The queen's silver eyes widened. For the first time, someone had fought not against her but for her. Together, human and queen stood back to back, their weapons flashing as enemies closed in. The hall thundered with the clash of blades and the roar of voices. When the storm finally ended, the floor was littered with broken weapons and fallen soldiers. The nobles who remained alive bowed their heads in silence. The rebels had been crushed, but the cost was clear. The empire was split. The queen stood tall, her silver robes torn, her crown cracked. Daniel leaned on his staff, exhausted, his body shaking from the battle. The queen raised her voice once more. "Hear me, my people. The human flame has proven itself not just in trial but in battle. He fought not for himself but for me, your queen. From this day we will not fear his fire, we will learn from it. His hunger will guide us into a new age." Some bowed deeply, others turned away in silence. But none dared speak against her again. Later, in the quiet of her private chamber, the queen stood before Daniel and Morales. "You have changed my empire," she said softly, her thunder gone, her voice almost human. "Perhaps even changed me." Daniel gave a weary smile. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted to survive." The queen stepped closer, her silver eyes steady. "That is what makes your flame so strong. It burns not for power but for life, and it has ended my hunger." For silence. She reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. For the first time, Daniel did not feel like her prisoner. He felt like her ally. That night, as the palace ship drifted past a sea of stars, Daniel stood at the window with Morales. "You realize," Morales said quietly, "we might have just changed the course of an entire empire." Daniel chuckled softly. "Yeah, not bad for a couple of humans." They stood in silence for a while, watching the stars burn like countless flames in the dark. Each star was a fire, a hunger, a story waiting to be told. And Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The queen's hunger was not for destruction, but for change. And now their flames burned together,